Chris, how you doing, man?
I got a touch of man flu.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the
Oh,
kids
that's not
went
good.
back to school this week, and literally within 2 days, we've all got runny noses.
Oh, bloody hell. Are they
It's
doing all
like
right? Are they okay?
it's like the common cold said, "You didn't forget about me, did you?"
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. How are the kids doing? Are they okay?
Yeah, they're fine. They're really
Yeah.
happy to be back.
Crazy, man, isn't it? It's just
Yeah. This
everything's all over the place. It's a little bit like they for our listeners not in the UK, due to COVID, we've just had a new rule brought in where from Monday, we're not allowed to meet in groups of more than 6 people. Yet people are still allowed to go to school and work in offices and go to the cinema with hundreds of people and crazy, right?
it's 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 strange, very strange. So I can go to the pub, but because I'm a family of five, I can't go and see my mum and dad.
It's so weird, isn't it?
It's really weird.
And then you've obviously got like football teams now trialing, trying to get people back in stadiums and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just wow. Yeah, that's the real life horror show, right?
Oh,
At the
exactly.
minute.
It's
Bloody hell.
exactly
Well, let's talk about some fictional horror, because it
the
makes us a
good
little bit
kind.
happier. Yeah, the good kind. Yeah, the good kind. So I'm going to touch on a little thing I just sent you over. This literally broke an hour or two ago, just before we're about to record this. So this is pretty amazing, like just on point. It is officially announced that Neve Campbell is returning to Scream.
That's fantastic. But, I wasn't sure she was because I guess she's the last original cast member to sign
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that makes it really. You couldn't imagine seeing Ghostface without her.
Well, yeah, oddly enough, that was kind of the official press release, kind of touched on it actually. Like there's no Scream without Ghostface and there's no Scream without Sydney. So yeah, interesting, man. We touched on this. We talked about Scream 5 a few episodes ago. Obviously we didn't know if she was coming back, and we kind of said what we did want her back, but our ideas of where they could take that. I said personally I would like them to kind of pull a bit of a swerve and knock her off in the opening minutes, kind of
Yep.
the classic Scream, killing off who you think is going to be a main character in the opening minutes. I think that would be a really good way to go. I'm sticking with that. I hope they still do that.
I mean, I will be disappointed if they don't do that. I remember when you said that last time. It feels so right. It feels like they have to do it.
I just don't know, where do you go if you keep the three main, the like legacy characters as they're calling them. I think that's
Yeah.
quite interesting from the press releases. They're calling them legacy characters, as in Sydney, Dewey, and Gal. If you just keep all them three together and like we're just going to do that again, like I'm actually not that interested in that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it comes back to that issue of when does a sequel become acceptable? Because I could watch more Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th all the time, and Halloween as well. And I don't know if that's because not so much Halloween, but certainly with Nightmare on Elm Street, it's a bit more tongue in cheek.
Of course.
Um, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's hard to put your finger on what's acceptable. Why some franchises can
Well, there's also
make.
a changing of the cast with those, right? But if you're going with those classic icons, kind of the through line with them is the killer, right? So it's like
Yes.
Michael, Jason, Freddy, Leatherface if you go and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but the surrounding people for the most part change out, especially in like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, you have some characters that pop in and out of a few of the films, but they largely change. Scream is actually very different to that. Scream follows a bit of a different formula where like, Ghostface is the same, like the icon's the same, but it's always a different character under the mask.
Yeah.
But then it's the human characters, if you will, not the monster, that are the same. I kind of want to change in that now.
So how do you let's if we assume for a second that it's going to be Scream 5 and it's another
Yeah.
sequel and Ghostface is in it again, just thinking logically, as much logic as you can apply to a horror film, why would someone go out of their way to dress up as that character again? So
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
story's got to make sense. But what's thrown me a little, I in the press release you sent, I thought it was being pitched as a reboot. So are they just going back to the beginning again?
To be honest with you, I think it keeps changing.
Mm.
I think it keeps changing. I'm really not sure what they're going to do with this. I would like them to completely flip it on its head. I would like them not to reveal who Ghostface is come the end of the film. Like I said before, I would like a new trilogy where it's a continuation of the previous stories, and the way to kick that off would be getting rid of the old guard, or getting rid of Sydney, and maybe having Gal and Dewey somewhat throughout the films. But the big mystery throughout the trilogy is who is Ghostface. Because
Yeah, yeah.
before they find out, they find out Scream 1, 2, 3, and 4, you find out. But it would be great if you didn't find out, and that was the mystery.
If they don't kill Sydney very early on in the first 10 minutes, then I think they should kill Ghostface and
Oh,
take
that
it
would be
somewhere.
interesting.
Take it somewhere different.
Oh my God, can you imagine the riots in the streets? Can you imagine? That would be interesting. That would be interesting. I would like to see. Yeah, I just want to see a little something different from this. You don't have to change up the formula too much, but I think just because we've got Gal's story, Dewey's story, Sydney's story, we've got that 4 times now. We don't need, it's like you said, why would you keep attacking these people? It doesn't work out
Yeah,
well for you, you know.
yeah,
It doesn't
yeah.
work out well. So yeah, I'd
How has
like
she
to see
made
that.
so many enemies?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, it would be good, man. I'm kind of interested to see where it goes. I kind of like the filmmakers behind this. The filmmaker group known as Radio Silence.
I'm not familiar with their. I mean, apart from VHS, I've seen that.
Yeah,
But the other one that they mentioned, or if they've done any more, I've
Ready or
not.
Not.
Yeah, I've not seen that.
It's good, man. It's really good. It's really fun. It's just a really, really fun film.
So,
And
is it fair to say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but hearing that they're making the film, that's, in your opinion, a good thing?
oh hell yeah, yeah. I think they, especially, I can't really remember their film from VHS, but thinking about Ready or Not, it strikes a really, really good balance of comedy, horror, and caring about your main character. And I think that's very Scream. Is there is comedy involved in Scream. But you do have to care about the characters. You do. I would love to see them do something like that. I think that would be a great move forward.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I would like them to. I'm definitely not interested in a one and done story. So I'd like this to be a trilogy, or at least a two-parter. Take it to Screen 6 and maybe be done.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? Apart from, I suppose, I can't really think of another horror two-parter.
No, good point. Film-wise, really, you don't get a lot of films that are
No.
two-parters because people either want the trilogy or the standalone. So that would be interesting. I'd like to see where
Mm,
they go with that because they have done Scream 4. I think it was a little bit forgettable, but yeah, that is out
I
there.
forgot to watch it.
Yeah, it says it all, really, don't it? That
I
says it all.
genuinely, I didn't know there was a Scream 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
and do
never.
you know what? It's one of those that just amazingly went under the radar. How does it go under the radar? A Scream film,
Mhm.
crazy. But yeah, man, I mean, this is pretty big news. I know that before we come on, this was kind of blowing up on Twitter and people were having their thoughts on it. So yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes, and I think there's some interesting people behind it. Like we said, we touched on the filmmaking group known as Radio Science, but it's also wrote by James Vanderbilt, who is the screenwriter of Zodiac. So that's pretty exciting, because I think Zodiac is a great, great example of a very, very serious serial killer murder mystery film. So, I mean, can we get a bit of that? Take it in
That would
a
be
bit
really
more of a
good.
serious direction. That would
That would
be
be good.
interesting, wouldn't it? That
Yeah,
would
because
be
you're
interesting.
you're right. I mean, there is a lot of humor in Scream as well. I mean, if they continue on that line, will we see Officer Dewey doing some wrestling moves as well this time?
Oh my god.
What with David Arquette's new career?
Oh my god, David Arquette. David Arquette. He's a character, isn't he?
Yeah,
Bloody hell. That would be interesting. Seeing David Arquette pulling out some wrestling moves on Ghostface.
chair shots,
I'm here for it,
pile
man. I'm,
drivers.
I'm here for it. I'll watch that. I'll buy my ticket first day
That'd
to
be
watch
great.
that. Do that. All right, dude. I think we'll leave it there because there isn't too much on this. We kind of touched on it before. I just thought it was an interesting thing to kick the show off because, like I
Yeah,
said, the news just dropped and there's a little bit of an update based on something we spoke about before. You know,
and we've got our finger on the pulse.
exactly. Finger right on the pulse. Literally broke an hour before we're on it. We're already on it. Shows we put our work in, right?
Exactly.
All right, dude. I'm going to touch on a link you sent me that blew my mind. It's a trailer that is dropped for an upcoming documentary called Boris Karloff, the man behind the monster.
It looks amazing.
Oh, it looks so
Absolutely
good.
amazing. I mean, I think I've got a bit of the documentary bug after Hail to the Deadites from Fright Fest.
Hell yes.
Um, and I mean, no disrespect to that film because I really enjoyed it, but this is obviously a much bigger budget.
Yeah.
Looking at the life and times of Boris Karloff, and he's one of those actors who, you know, most people won't know his name, but he is the face of Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster, I
Yeah.
should say, before people correct me. But that image, that is the monster. Whenever anyone thinks of Frankenstein, it's Boris Karloff's image under all the
Yeah.
makeup.
He's the
Um,
most recognizable monster of all time.
oh, completely, and I think he's more synonymous with the monster than Christopher Lee is with Dracula. I think
Oh, of course he is. Of course he
he's
is. Yeah.
just, if you see a picture of Dracula, you could flip a coin, it could be anything. But if you see a picture of Frankenstein's monster, it's likely to be that famous shot of Boris Karloff.
Well, I think there's a great line in this trailer. I say trailer loosely because it's a 5 minute.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. It's amazing. But there's a great line in it where I can't remember who said it, but one of the filmmakers in the piece says you don't get lunchboxes with Robert De Niro's Frankenstein on them,
Yeah, I did.
and
Do you know what? I did laugh at that. I thought
that is so true. It's
it
so
is,
true.
it is very true.
That's how iconic.
Slightly harsh to Robert De Niro,
Yeah,
but
slightly harsh, but that's how iconic this character is, and how iconic Boris Karloff is, and it shouldn't be understated what this film done for horror. It's no secret that Frankenstein and The Bride of Frankenstein are my favorite horror films of all time. I've got tattoos of them, and I absolutely adore these films. They did change horror cinema. Dracula come out just before Frankenstein, but it was a hit. Wasn't like Frankenstein. Frankenstein like just took over the world.
mm,
Frankenstein was when studios went, okay, right, this Dracula thing wasn't like a one hit wonder. Like we can make some serious money off horror films, and then there's no looking back.
what I find interesting is Hammer did a few Frankenstein films as well. But despite that, it's still the universal image of Frankenstein as the one that sticks in everybody's mind. What I really loved from that trailer is how nobody had a bad word to say about him. Said he was just a really, really nice guy, which is always nice to hear. But when I was reading up on him before we came on, he's done over 70 films before his first role as
Yeah,
Frankenstein.
yeah, man.
That's insane.
Yeah,
That's
he
more than
was.
most people's careers.
Oh yeah, like he was. He come about in a day when you would regularly shoot multiple films a week.
Oh yeah.
You'd go in and you'd shoot one, you'd walk over to the next soundstage and you'd shoot another.
Because
And
they were tied to a production company,
yes,
weren't they? And
yeah, so
that was it.
yeah,
You're with them.
yeah, exactly. You would sign your deal with Universal or MGM or whoever it was, and then you would kind of exclusively make films with them. But if you did make them with anywhere else, normally you were kind of loaned out in a weird way, like the studio would own you, and you
Mm-hmm.
would have to be loaned out to another studio if they were to put you in anything. But yeah, he was in everything, man. He was like everywhere, and obviously was not the name he become after Frankenstein. But then after Frankenstein, he really, really made a name for himself in horror films. One of
Yeah,
the things
yeah,
a lot of people forget is he's also Universal's version of the Mummy,
yeah,
and again, like completely iconic on its own. He's ridiculously iconic in that role as well. It just turns out that he had previously played the most famous monster that there's ever been, the most famous horror character there has
yeah.
ever been. Like, we just touched on Ghostface, and Freddy, Jason, and Michael, none of them exist without Frankenstein.
He's the number one, isn't he? He's the
Yeah,
most.
yeah, of course it is.
I think what was really cool in the documentary trailer as well was how starstruck Guillermo del Toro was
Oh, I
when he's
love that.
speaking
Yeah,
about Boris Karloff and just talking about the presence that he has. And
yeah,
there's a line where he talks about he doesn't need to have this huge overacting presence. He whispers, and it's the
yeah,
camera's job to listen
yeah,
carefully. I
yeah.
thought it was a
I love that
beautiful
line. I
line. It was
absolutely love that line.
wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. Like on that line, I think it's either just before that quote or just after, where he says, some actors go to the camera came to Boris.
That's brilliant, isn't
Oh,
it?
it's so good. And it's so true though. It's so, he just had a way of, he knew what he was working with. You know, he knew, and don't get me wrong, like if it was just Frankenstein, you could put that down to a lot of other things. You could put
Mm.
that down to James Whale's direction. You could put that down to Jack Pierce's incredible makeup. I mean, that Frankenstein makeup is probably the greatest makeup job that has ever been performed in cinema.
Do you know what? You look at it, and I think it's really it's unbelievable that it's almost 100 years old.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's
It's
absolutely crazy. And when Jack Pierce created Frankenstein's monster, a lot of those techniques he was using, he was making up on the spot. But they didn't exist.
mm,
They weren't, it wasn't like you went to school and learned this stuff. He was completely making them up. And that look as well. That's
yeah,
another thing. That look that we know as the Frankenstein look, that was created for this film. That was all designed by Jack Pierce, and it was designed around the look of Boris Karloff.
and Universal copyrighted it straight away, didn't
Oh,
they?
straight away, yeah. And that's the look of that's the look of Frankenstein. Go
When I
back
was
to the
growing
book.
up, my dad used to say to me, he used to tell me about Boris Karloff, and I didn't realize that. This could sound awful, but I didn't realize it was makeup. I thought it was a bit of makeup,
Yeah,
but I just assumed,
yeah, of
wow,
course, yeah,
that's how he looked. Obviously, he's going to play the monster. I didn't realize it was heavy makeup and 4-inch
yeah.
shoes. I just thought,
Well, I
okay, he's
think
a tall, weird-looking guy.
that speaks to the makeup, but also does speak to Karloff, that he really, really brings that character to life.
Mm,
He fully embraces that character. He doesn't let the makeup overtake him. And I think that can happen with a lot of actors. I think with heavy, heavy prosthetics makeup, you can let it weigh you down, and you can become overwhelmed and feel that the makeup is just going to do all the talking for you.
mm.
You don't put something extra into it. Yeah, he killed this man, and I am so happy that he's getting not just documentary treatment, but like a really, really solid, well thought out documentary. With a lot of heavy hitters. If I've got the press release in front of me, and if you look at some of the names
Ron
that were involved with
Perlman,
this, Ron Perlman, Del Toro, Christopher Plummer, Peter Bogdanovich. You've got a few of the Karloff family members in there
yes,
as well, which is
yeah,
interesting. I know his daughter. It's his daughter, isn't it? That's in the trailer.
yes, yeah.
This is a real dig into cinema and how much this guy influenced so many filmmakers, so many actors, so many
And
producers.
going back to the makeup. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You were going to say something about the comparison with the book makeup.
Oh, of course, yeah. So no, if you just go back and read the original novel, Frankenstein is not described the way Boris Karloff
Mm,
looks at
mm.
all. It is a very, if you touch on the Robert De Niro one again, that's actually a lot closer
Yes,
to the
yeah.
book. But it just doesn't work because that's not Frankenstein now. The image of Frankenstein is Boris Karloff. Like that is how iconic that makeup is. Like I said, in my mind, it's the greatest makeup job ever performed on a Hollywood screen. It's that good. It transcends cinema. I've lost count of the amount of people over the years that have worn Frankenstein t-shirts or obviously know this image, never watched the film
It would
because it's
be
that iconic.
it
It,
would be
it transcends
really
cinema.
really difficult to redo Frankenstein now, I think, without some homage to Boris Karloff, because you look at the monsters. Herman is Boris Karloff. You look at Hotel Transylvania, Frank is Boris
Yeah,
Karloff.
yeah.
They are just caricatures of that universal Karloff image. They're not Frankenstein's monster as described in the book.
Well, I think that's the only way to do it. I think if you're going to do it, if you're going to make and apparently apparently they're carrying on with their kind of like Universal Monster reboot after the Invisible Man. So it looks like we're going to get one of these. And if we do, for me, you just have to do this. You just have to do the Jack Pierce makeup and make it as Boris Karloff like as possible, because why try and change it? Why try and improve it? You can't.
And can we, just as you mentioned it, can we just touch quickly on the Universal
Yeah.
Monsters, the new franchise? Where,
Yeah.
as far as you know, where are they with that?
From what I understand, they've all been set up now with Blumhouse. So Blumhouse have their main deals with Universal.
Mm.
So I think Universal get first refusal on everything.
And
And
have they
Universal,
confirmed what ones they're going to do?
I think the next one's the Wolfman by the same director as the Invisible Man. I believe it stars Ryan Gosling, which I like Ryan Gosling. I'm a big Ryan Gosling fan, but I'm not sure that's the right move to make, just because I think it's too. The Wolfman has to be a very understated film. It has to be a very small film. I like the way they've given them to Blumhouse, because Blumhouse have a model where they don't spend that much money on films,
Mm.
and I think that lends itself to the Universal Monster stuff. If you look at the last time they made Wolfman, pretty good, great makeup,
Which one
great.
was that? The Benicio del Toro.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, I quite
and
like that.
yeah, that weren't bad. It weren't bad, and there is some great makeup in that.
Anthony Hopkins.
And yeah, Anthony Hopkins, and the makeup was by Rick Baker, legendary makeup artist in Hollywood, done loads and loads of stuff. Go and check out Rick Baker's IMDb if you want to know stuff he's done. You've definitely all seen it. But yeah, it weren't bad. I just think they spent too much money. They spent it was like Joe Johnson, I think, who was coming off
Mm.
the back of Jurassic Park 3, or was about to make Jurassic Park 3, and they spent over $100 million on that film. It was just too much for a Wolfman film, and you're never going to make that back either. You are bloody dreaming if you think you're going to make that back. But yeah, I think smaller is the way to go. I'm interested to see where they take it. I'm interested in seeing where they're going to take Frankenstein, and I think actually more than just a straight Frankenstein film, I'd like to see a Bride of Frankenstein film, because I feel like I love that film. I think it's maybe the best sequel ever made, but there's definitely room to flesh out her character.
There is a bride in the book, isn't there? If
There
I
is a
remember
bride in the book,
rightly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and she, in the film version, despite how absolutely iconic that makeup is as well, and how iconic Elsa Lancaster is in that role,
Mm.
she actually doesn't have a lot to do in that film. And
No.
she's not in it very much. So if you were going to make a Bride of Frankenstein film, I think that's what you could do. Again, keep the look, don't change the look. But I think there is definitely a story to be told there. I would actually, if you're going to do it, I think maybe an interesting way to do it is reverse it, where you make it Elsa Lancaster, or not Elsa Lancaster, you make the bride the kind of first monster created,
Mm.
and
Mm.
then she wants a mate, or they think she needs a mate, so then they make, the original monster. It might be an interesting way to take it. It'd be
Yeah.
interesting. I'd
Yeah.
like to see Ron Perlman under the makeup as well. I
Oh
think he's got the
man,
look.
yeah. That'd be really cool.
He's got the look, man. Del
You
Toro.
need a face to build on, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine Del Toro behind the camera with Ron Perlman in front of it? Some Hellboy vibes. I'm down for that.
That'd be really good. Really, really good.
I'm down for that. Who would you cast as the bride?
How about Uma Thurman?
Oh, that would be interesting. We haven't seen Uma Thurman in a while,
Mm.
have we?
Mm.
We haven't seen Uma
This
Thurman in a
could be
while.
her revitalizing.
See, that would be interesting, because I feel like they would go younger,
Mm.
but actually, I feel like that could be a really, really good one.
I think she's got one of those faces, characterful faces, that's got a unique look about it, where you could really do something really,
Yeah,
really well.
that could be interesting, man. That would be really, really interesting. I'd like them to go. I know I just said Ron Perlman, but Ron Perlman does do a lot of independent stuff as well. I'd actually like them to go not with super famous people
Mm.
for
Mm.
these roles. Because did you see the original plan, and that big photo that Universal put in Vanity Fair, I think it was, of Johnny Depp was going to be the Invisible Man, and Russell Crowe was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
The
Javier Bardem, I think, was going to be the Wolfman,
yeah,
which is an interesting choice. That could work. But yeah, interesting, man. I'd like to see where it goes. But yeah, just to round out the Boris Karloff thing, I can't wait for this. I'm so happy you sent, like, this literally made my whole week.
do we
This
know
trailer
anything
really
about
did.
where it's gonna be?
Not that I know. Not that I know. I can imagine it's going to hit VOD. I mean, this ain't going to cinemas, I don't think.
I haven't
I
even
would,
heard a whisper about it, and then
no,
they've come out with a 5, so it's obviously done.
it's done. Yeah, it's definitely done because that was straight clips from the film.
Mm,
I tell you what, could we see this as a doc at Fright Fest in October?
God, I hope so.
I mean, they always have docs, and is there any better than this?
That would be amazing.
Mate, we'll be first in line.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Do you see they announced their first film
No, I didn't see it.
today?
What is it?
Yeah. Do you remember Train to Busan?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the sequel to that.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so really weirdly, they also announced. So we're not. This wasn't actually one of our talking subjects, but just to bring it up quickly before we move on. So they actually announced that the sequel for Train to Busan is going straight to VOD in November. So the beginning of November, straight on VOD. Everyone can watch it. I think they're not putting it in cinemas now. And obviously, Fright Fest is at the end of October, so it kind of works that they're going to screen it before everyone can get it at home. Going to be interesting, man. I'm still a bit up in the air about, is Fright Fest going to happen in October? It's a month. It's like a month away.
Well, I was due to see Skindred, the band, in November, and it's
Oh,
just
no
been
way,
announced
really?
that it's cancelled.
Oh
So
man, I saw Skindred last year. Absolute killer.
I've never seen them. I was really looking
Oh.
forward to it. It's been moved to October next year. I don't know. I can't see how it's going to happen. I mean,
Well, I think with that, like we touched on top of the show, with that announcement of gatherings of 6 people, and I know a festival
exactly.
is like a cinema set up, but I don't know. Like
I think I think it'll be digital, Scott. Now,
yeah, I do. I think it'll be digital again. Because also, how do you get that many people into Leicester Square? Or actually, let's go the other way. How do you cut the number of people that are meant to be there in half? Like if you're going to social distance it, right? Because we can't go and
then
all be sitting next to each other.
I think what you do is you do both. You have it digital and you
Interesting.
have it physical for the people who
Yeah.
feel they want to go. Because I'm not sure I'd be comfortable. I haven't been to a cinema yet. I think a kind of mixed, put it online for the people who really want
Yeah.
to go and get the social aspect as well. They can go as well, and they're not going to get the numbers, nor can they have them. That
Yeah.
could be the way to go.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe.
It depends. It depends what
Yeah.
the state of the country is at that point.
Agreed.
And then,
Agreed,
for
man.
example, as far as we know, Candyman's still hitting next month.
Well, there is quite a few films that are keeping their release date strangely. Like
Yeah.
the
So I mean, I would, as long as I feel safe, I would probably go
yeah,
to that.
to see that. Yeah.
I wouldn't go to a festival though.
Well, I think we've got to take the plunge at some point. I know they dropped the trailer for June yesterday, didn't they?
Yes, yeah,
Looks incredible if you haven't seen it.
it looks really cool.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Like huge, absolute huge sci-fi epic. But that's kept its December release date. That hasn't moved. It's literally I think I read yesterday, it's the only Warner Bros. Release of 2020 that has not moved even once.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's, and I know like people might think, well, it's in December. There were other films in December that have been pushed till like next summer. Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting, man. Interesting. Next up, we keep talking about reboots. We keep talking about remakes. We keep talking about prequels. Here is another one. I'm a little bit optimistic about this, I will admit. Again, another link you sent me. So I'll let you dive in. MGM are developing a Robocop prequel series. Okay. Thoughts?
When you read this press release, I fucking love RoboCop.
Yeah.
I was so excited. It's such a brilliant film. I mean, the sequels were crap, but the original
Yeah.
RoboCop with all its political, socio-economic connotations as well,
Yeah.
coining the phrase ultra-violent film is
Yes.
fantastic. Dick Jones as a character is brilliant. Seeing him in a series prequel exploring him and his rise in Omnicorp, is it?
Yep.
Um, Sounds great. But if you read if you read more, the guy making it is saying, it's all the things that make RoboCop great without RoboCop. Well,
It's not got RoboCop.
RoboCop is the main thing that makes
Yeah,
RoboCop great.
yeah. You sent me this. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Okay, what's this? Reading down. Okay, this is okay. No RoboCop. Hold on. What do you mean? Like so, but then it's a prequel series, and I guess in RoboCop we see him become RoboCop. So I guess if you are doing a prequel series, how can you? Do you know what I mean? Like I guess it makes sense in a way, but I don't know. Does anyone want to see that?
I
Is anyone
well,
going in for a
if you
RoboCop
see
reboot?
if you read, there's a section at the end that says they're still working on a RoboCop sequel, and I'm
Yes.
not really interested in that. A prequel with no RoboCop, focusing just on the character Dick Jones, I think is great. I'm a little bit nervous, as I said, that obviously it doesn't feature RoboCop, which is the big central thing to RoboCop. But I think it's one of those things where they've completely coming at this as a different angle with this property, and I think it could be really good. And I think
So
doing
does
away
this
with
tie into the original? Like, is this going to be set during the same
I don't
period?
think it will. I think
Right.
if they end it with RoboCop being developed, then that's effectively the end of the series, because the film RoboCop doesn't take place over that great a time, and
I wonder
obviously
if they just
Dick
drag it
Jones
out.
dies. They could do. What I would like to
Yeah,
see is the odd little throwaway thing, like schematics for RoboCop, or
that'd be interesting.
talking in passing
Yeah,
about this project. It'd be good to see Dick Jones as a young executive in the company,
yeah,
sliming his way up. He's a very slimy, underhanded, ruthless character. How he gets to the top, literally murders people who get in his way. And I think, also his association with Clarence. How does he get involved with Clarence?
yeah.
That's interesting. Clarence is the other great character in that film. The film RoboCop, you watch it now, it still holds up. It's so good. The sequels don't. I'm not interested in another sequel
There was
because
a.
the
Am I
original
right
was
in
so
thinking there
good.
was a reboot as well?
There was,
There
and
was, wasn't there, a few
it
years
was all
ago?
right. It was all right, but the same again. No disrespect to them. Why? The
Yeah,
original
yeah,
still does what it's
yeah. I
supposed to
agree.
do, and I think
Strange one.
I do think coming at it a completely different angle. I think this could be really good.
I'm optimistic about it. The only thing putting me off is it doesn't have RoboCop in it, yet it's tied to that world. But do you really have? And I mean, I kind of already know the answer to this, right? Because from what I remember, the reboot they made wasn't very successful.
No,
So in terms of like people wanting to see more RoboCop, there ain't that many of them out there because they tried it and it didn't work. Are there even more people out there that want to see a series about Dick Jones?
see that's the thing. I think on paper you think RoboCop series without RoboCop, focusing on an executive in the company. Wow, sounds great. But but I do think, knowing what we know about him, I just think, especially the relationship with Clarence. How does this guy, this well-educated businessman, become associated with, what is essentially a domestic terrorist
Yeah.
in whatever the city's called? I can't remember what the city's called. I think part of the reason why the new
Delta City.
yeah, part of the reason why the new RoboCop failed, I think, was because it was just an action film and it didn't really have any
Good point.
commentary at all.
Good point.
You could argue that it had the commentary on the self and when you cease to be you, with the chip he had in his head and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. But it just didn't have the over the top, that character who's always on the TV. I'd buy that for $1. The
Yeah.
whole pushing capitalism, and it's such a fantastic film, and I'm
Again,
very
I just
optimistic with
proposed
it.
the question: why is this not an original idea based around a rising executive within a robot tech company? I like that could be interesting, especially with everything that's going on in
It
Silicon
could,
Valley at the minute and stuff like that.
but I think
You could
it's
like an Elon Musk
but
type
that's
character. That would be interesting, right? Because again, the idea is like this is tied to RoboCop. Okay, why is it tied to RoboCop? Because I don't think there's that much name value on RoboCop where you're gonna get a ton of viewers for this. And I think that's shown in the reboot. People didn't turn up at the cinema to watch the reboot. So are they really going to commit to like 10 hours of television?
Mm.
Like, so, but I think if you were to do an original and like heavy market based on like Silicon Valley pioneers, you know, like an Elon Musk type character who names his baby after like random letters and numbers, like just I'd watch the shit out of that. That would be interesting.
It would, but I think you're right. The numbers aren't going to be there, but they will be able to. You know, let's say for argument's sake, this comes onto Netflix, this series, and let's say for argument's sake, Netflix also starts to show the new or the original RoboCops. You know, they start showing those films, then they show this one, and it will be the same. Well, you watch that. Let's recommend this to you. You'll also get the people like me who just massive fanboy for RoboCop and will just have a look at it anyway. And I think there's probably enough to hook people in to justify it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. See, when you make that argument, I'm like, yeah, I'm on board. So yeah, let's hope they can sell it to me as well as you can, because when you sell it, I'm on board, Chris.
They need to give me a job, don't they?
They need to give you a job. You need to like, who's making this? Is it MGM?
Yeah,
Yeah,
MGM.
MGM. Yeah, MGM. Sign him up. What are you doing? For God's sake. Right. From one series kicking off to
Mm,
one ending after kind of what seems like forever.
forever.
Kind of ending. And I say kind of ending because we are, of course, talking about the recent news that dropped this week that The Walking Dead will end with its final season in 2022. I believe it is a extended final season that will go over 2 years. However,
So two series basically.
two series basically. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, basically
It's
two
not no, it's
series.
not two series. It's one series over 2 years. What are you
Yeah,
talking about?
well, it's crazy, right? However, it will end, but then it will spin off into a Daryl and Carol spin-off series, as
Mm.
well as the 50,000 other Walking Dead spin-off series that have been created. So I don't know, man. Like, how do you feel about The Walking Dead?
I love it. I mean,
Do you still watch it?
yeah.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
the funny thing is, so before the series, I was reading the comics, and I started watching the series after the comics, and I only got about 3, 4 series in before I think I changed service providers and couldn't get it anymore.
Right,
And
okay.
now I've got Amazon Prime. It's
Yeah.
on there. I've started from the beginning again, so I'm working my way through again.
So how far did you get?
I reckon I've got about 3 series through. I'm currently up to 4, so I'm
Okay.
starting to see stuff that I don't remember. So,
Right.
um,
So
and
what's
I think
that? Remind me what happens in the fourth season?
they've done. I think I'm up to 4. They've just done the
Is Negan in it yet?
no.
Right, that's where I got to. I got to like the Negan story, which I think is like season 5, so you're not far behind.
Yeah. But I mean, I still love it, and what I love about it is the zombies are secondary. They're incidental. It's about people and their relationships.
Yeah,
You know, against this backdrop of this. You know,
yeah,
it could have been anything. It could have been nuclear war. It could have been disease. It could have been water famine. Whatever. You know, the fact that it's zombies. Okay. You know, it ticks the little horror box. But what's interesting is the people and the characters. Um, and I really enjoy it. You know, I know we've spoken before about zombies are done to death, and they are really pushing more, which I'll come to in a minute. But I think of all the kind of zombie franchises out there, I think The Walking Dead does it really well. I think it's got brilliant characters in it. I really enjoyed. I've been watching as well. Fear the Walking Dead, the prequel,
okay,
which
yeah,
brings another. I don't know if you've seen that. It brings another slant to it.
yeah. I've seen season 1. I think I maybe season 2, summer season 2. Definitely seen season 1, which I actually
It's
really
much
enjoyed.
more inclusive, so it focuses on a lot of indigenous peoples in America
Yes,
as well.
yes,
So that's really good. I love the character of Daryl as most people do. So I'm excited that they're
of
going to be
course.
carrying it on with him. But here's where I get a little bit pissed off with it because I think they're doing too much. So that this series of The Walking Dead isn't over, and we already know. So we've already got Fear the Walking Dead. We've already got, which I haven't seen, Walking Dead World Beyond,
Yeah,
which is set in the future. We now know we're going to get this new spin-off
Yeah.
with Daryl. We've also got Andrew Lincoln coming back for a trilogy of films with Rick Grimes.
Yeah.
And they've also, just in a throwaway comment, they're also producing a new series of Walking Dead that focuses on single episodes, focusing on different characters, like background characters. And I
Yeah.
just think that's too much, way
I
too
agree.
much.
In terms of zombie storytelling, it's some of the best I've ever seen because, like you said, there's zombies are secondary, and I fully believe that
Mm.
should be the way.
And when they are in,
Characters,
they look great.
oh, the makeup is incredible. The makeup is absolutely outstanding, and the guys behind the makeup are fully involved with the show. Even the guy that was the Greg Nicotero, I think his name is, he was like the head makeup artist
Mm.
at his company K&B Effects, and then he's gone on to like be the director and producer of the show now. So there's a real love affair with that. So I think from an effects point of view, yeah, I love it. I really do adore it with that. I did stop watching around about season 5, season 6, I think it was. And do you know what? It wasn't even by choice. It was just I just kind of forgot to go back. Is weird as
Yeah,
that sounds.
yeah, no, I
And
totally get that.
yeah, and I just started discovering other television. I didn't really need to go back. I watched Fear the Walking Dead season. I definitely watched season 1. I remember season 1. I remember really, really liking it. And then yeah, to touch on all these other spin-off shows.
It's so much. They've announced so much.
The weird thing is I like the sound of them all on their own,
Yes, no,
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
I just can't imagine watching all of them. Like that's all you're gonna watch. Like I say all the time about, being a wrestling fan, right? There's
Mm.
never been more wrestling on TV than there is now. It's too much. Like it's too much. Like I'm a wrestling fan, but I don't want to watch wrestling every day of the week. Like I'm a zombie fan, and I'm certainly a zombie fan when there's great makeup on screen. I don't fucking
Mm.
want to watch that every day of the week. I
Mm.
think that's the problem here. I think like there's just too much. It's just way too oversaturated.
All of these, you're right. All of these things sound great. There's not a bad idea there. Even seeing Andrew Lincoln, who's great as Rick Grimes, coming back, see him on the big screen. Hopefully, we can get back there. In a film with it.
That
But
would be quite cool.
they've already announced it's a trilogy, so there's
Yeah,
already 3 films there.
that's true.
Looking at the numbers of series and considering reruns as well,
Yeah,
it's you could literally have 3 or 4 on at the same time. But
yeah, you could. Yeah,
where do you know where to go?
no, you don't,
It's
man.
too much. You need a
It
break.
is.
Go and do. We all love it. It's great, but have a break. Go and make something else, and then come back to it in a few years and do
I
your
think
next
that's
series.
my. I think overall that's my problem with any of this stuff, right? If we're touching on The Walking Dead or RoboCop or Scream or any of that stuff, I think the reason I keep saying like just do a little something different is, or like I just said with RoboCop, like why is this based on RoboCop? Why can't we get an original sci-fi horror based on Silicon Valley pioneers, right? And that's
Mm,
because I always want to see original content. I always want to see original ideas. I think this idea of I'm not against sequels or trilogies and stuff like that. I love sequels or trilogies. I just want some original sequels and trilogies. I just want some original TV shows. And I
mm,
think
mm.
I can't really remember and I'm probably wrong on this and I'm gonna think of one straight away, but for me it's always original series, especially with series and films. It's the original ones that end up really really taking off,
Mm.
or like and then we end up kind of doing them to death, right? Like we say about superhero films and stuff like, and the MCU like being everywhere, but the reality is like 10 years ago no one was doing that, and they like introduced this new concept to cinema of every film is going to
Yeah,
be
that's
tied
true.
to
Yeah.
a certain universe. And to be honest with you, like the credit to them is their plan was always a 10-year plan. Like their plan was always to get to Thanos. So yeah, by the time we get there, 10 years later, we're like, fucking hell, we're a bit tapped out on this. And I love them films, but I was tapped out come Endgame
Mm,
on them films.
mm,
But that did start off as, okay, what do we do now? Where do we go now? Okay, why don't we develop these superhero films but completely connect them all? Not do standalone Batman films or Superman films. It's all about this connected universe. And look how bloody big that become. That everyone was trying to do that stuff. In all honesty, do you get the Walking Dead spin-offs where it's all a tied universe without the MCU becoming how big it was? Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like as soon as
mm,
you come up with this
mm.
original idea, it takes off. Everyone kind of wants to do it. But I know, just like aim for that stuff. Like aim to do something a little bit different. I would love to see these filmmakers and these makeup artists and these actors and the directors. You know, I'd love to see this whole team of The Walking Dead come out with a new TV show. Like, how amazing would that be if AMC announced, you know, from the makers of The Walking Dead, this brand new horror show, but it's got nothing to do with zombies. It's got nothing to do with The Walking Dead. Like, I'd be there. I'd be there for that more.
That'd be brilliant. I'd
Yeah,
I'd much prefer that than
yeah,
all of this
same,
stuff
man.
as much as I want to see these things, you know. But do you know what? Give it 10, 15 years and give me a series, a spin-off with Daryl where he's an old guy. You know, maybe he's got a family and, you know, he's not the man he was and he's trying to exist in this apocalyptic world still. You know,
That'd be
15 years
interesting.
down the line, we'll be ready for it.
Yeah,
But
like I said, I
literally
don't
five
hate
different
any of these
series at the
ideas.
same time.
I know, man. Like that's what I'm saying. I don't hate any of these ideas. That idea actually of a Walking Dead series where each episode is about a single standalone character.
That's probably the most interesting, I
Right,
think.
I really love that because then I think you can bring in filmmakers to tell very individual stories and
Yeah,
just set it all in the same world. I love that idea. I think that's a great idea. I would probably prefer if you were to make that series and instead of just confining it to zombies, make it about all different horror creatures. So like one
yeah,
episode
yeah.
could be zombies, the next one's a werewolf, you know, the next one's vampires, like whatever it is. Right, I'd probably be interested. But I think out of all the series, that's the one I'm certainly the most interested in. But yeah, but like you said, all this stuff together, man, just it's just oversaturated.
Yeah, I'll still give it a go though.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what? And like on that note, I always want to say this because I do think it's important. Like on that note, just because like I'm not too excited about it, or like Chris isn't too excited about it, or if we are if you are excited about it, that doesn't mean you're wrong. That doesn't mean like anyone else is wrong. Like that I fucking hate that idea of, if you are really excited about this, like awesome, like great. Like there definitely are a ton of people excited about it, so they won't be doing it. But yeah, if you are excited about this, guys, let us know. Drop it down in the comments because yeah, I'm always interested to hear people's viewpoints, just like I was with Chris on the Robocop series. I'm kind of optimistic about it, but it was actually in talking to Chris that got me quite excited about it. So yeah, drop it down below. Let us know what you think. And on that note, we are returning, Chris, after 1 week away to the creepy link of the week. Fuck me.
I I I've wanted to send it for a while, but I knew if I sent it to you, I'd have to watch it again, which I have.
Right, go on,
Um,
man. Intro it. Let these fine people know what
well,
you subjected me to.
this is I'll get to the explanation after, but this is a clip which was uploaded a long time ago, 2009. It's had like 25 million views,
Yeah, man. Crazy.
and it's been uploaded by this person called Creepy Blog. It's called I Feel Fantastic, and it's a few minutes long, maybe three or so.
Yeah.
Um, and it's this sort of mannequin thing singing with a really basic digitized voice over and over again. I feel fantastic. You feel fantastic. And that's essentially it. Doesn't sound like much, but Jesus Christ, it
Man,
really is the stuff of nightmares.
it's something.
What did you think?
Do you know, like, it is freaky. It's like just watching it, and because it doesn't sound like it's too long, like 2 3 minutes. It's a long fucking time for what you're watching, and
When it
that,
stares at you as well.
oh man, that adds to it. Like, there's some great shots. There's just this like random shot where it's mainly all set in a house, and then they randomly cut outside to the woods, slowly zoom in, slowly zoom back out. That's it, and it's just so everything is just so unsettling. But what I will say is, I love stuff like this. Like, I absolutely adore weird internet characters, or I don't want to call them like creepy pastas, but
Supposedly cursed videos and
yeah,
all that
yeah,
kind of
stuff like
thing.
that, man. I love that stuff. I love just finding like weird channels of stuff. Like there's a few things that, do you know what? If you haven't, there's one I'm thinking of now that I'm not even going to name it, because if you haven't seen it, I'm going to send it to you
Okay.
just to see what you think about it, because it's a whole channel of shit that just went on forever. And I love ones where you don't really know why they're doing it either. There's no explanation. So it's like, is this real? Is this not real? And then I love when you see that discussion that people have. And this is a little bit like that because There's no explanation to
So
it.
you hadn't seen it, I assume.
I'd never seen this. I'd never seen this. But man, it freaks me out, but I loved it for that
What?
because
So what do you think it's about?
this is it. Right, here's the interesting thing. I think you can read into these things so much. If I'm honest, it probably means nothing. Like most of these things
Yeah,
they put out there just to freak
yeah.
people out. But you could, like, for me, if I was going to pick something off the top of my head, like, it really has this kind of underlining meaning of isolation, depression, kind of convincing yourself that, and again, this is probably me just reading way too much into it, but kind of convincing yourself that you feel fantastic
Mm,
when in
that's
reality
interesting.
you just feel like a dead mannequin.
Very interesting.
What did you interpret this as,
I mean,
or didn't you?
the first time I watched it, I wasn't watching it blind. So I was I watch a lot of like clip shows, like weirdest clips on the internet and that kind of thing. So when I watched it, it had already been tainted in a way by all these sorts of theories and things. So I do know a couple of the theories, but I also know the supposed truth, and I'll tell you why it's the supposed truth.
Oh, interesting.
But obviously, it could be just someone has just made this thinking, "Wow, this is freaky. I'm going to put it up and to see what sort of reaction it gets." That's entirely possible. Now, the interesting thing here is that so one of the theories is that if you actually look at the description of the clip, there's some really obscure references and
Okay.
quotes from about Pygmalion, who in ancient Greece created his own perfect woman out of ivory, and he fell in love with
Mm,
her, and Aphrodite felt sorry for him and brought this being to life.
wow.
So one of the theories is that this person made this android mannequin, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it, after he murdered someone. And the theory is that the zoom in on the grass outside is where she's buried, where he's buried her, and he's dressed
Jesus.
her in these clothes. A counter theory is that this android became self-aware and murdered the person who created her because that's the only video that's ever been uploaded from this account. And there's
Wow.
very little information to be found about this mannequin. And because there are a couple of things that just are completely out of the ordinary compared to everything else, and actually don't quite fit with the supposed real explanation. So the first one is, why is there that random shot zoom in of the
Yep.
grass outside,
Yep.
just in the middle of it? The second thing is, if you pay really close attention to the lyrics, she's constantly saying, I feel fantastic. Occasionally, you feel fantastic.
Yep.
But at one point, she says, run, 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 please, please leave, which is
Okay.
obviously very, very
Yeah.
unsettling. So, but you know what? These are internet theories, and
Yeah.
people's
Yeah.
minds run away with them. And the whole creepy pasta, Slender Man, the rake, and
Of
all that
course.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's become its own sort of legend. Now, there is a truthful explanation: is that this is Tara the android, and
Right.
she was made by a guy called Bergeron, John, I think, John Bergeron, and he first uploaded this clip of her in 2004, and it was then re-uploaded by this creepy blog in 2009. So it didn't do very well in 2004.
Yeah.
There's a website called androidworld.com from the early 2000s
Right.
where he's put a post on there saying he's building this android called Tara, very low budget, and he's made, believe it or not, this is a music video, and he's made several music videos that you can find on. There's a Facebook page about her. There's a couple of
Wow.
places you can find them, and his idea was he wanted to make a music video. He wanted it to be the first singing android, and his plan was to tour around the place as a kind of come and see the singing android.
Wow.
Um,
That's kind of more creepy than
I
any
know.
of the
So
theories.
here's the thing, though. Okay, can you conceivably think that this is a good idea, and
Yeah.
that's a good music video? Because there are several that you can find. Number two, what's with the please, please, please leave, run,
And what's
and
with that shot?
what's with the shot? Yeah,
The shot
it's
of the
it's.
grass.
I mean, that is the so-called truth. Is that it's
I love that,
It's
man.
a misguided music video.
I love the theories that can pop up
You
around
can
this.
find it on Facebook, Tara the Android, and it says Art Project, and all of the
So
videos are on there.
interesting. So interesting. I mean, yeah, that's obviously, that definitely sounds like it's the real explanation. But it is very interesting, and I do love the way these take on a life of their own,
Mm,
but also that there are a lot of other kind of versions of stuff like this with creepy characters or creepy videos that people upload. And there was a thing a few years ago which I really, really liked. I even thought about kind of trying to bring it back and do one myself and like not telling anyone. So obviously I'm not doing it because I'm giving it away now. But it was where you essentially tell a story over tweets, but you do it with just like really quick random videos. So there was one where it was essentially like someone being stalked.
mm,
So they like created an account. For a couple of weeks they would post stuff that looked like it was a normal person, and then they would like share a video saying like, oh my god, like there's this weird knocking in my
mm.
house. And then they'd be like, oh my god, what's it, a video of like a shape at the door or something like that. And it's all like this next gen storytelling. But I love that. I love the idea of exploring different ways of like
See,
telling
this
stories.
is the thing. I think this is so freaky. My opinion is that this is an early version of that. I
Yeah,
think it's someone who's
yeah,
made something and thought that's going to be pretty creepy,
that's
and
pretty creepy.
because this
Yeah,
person, this John Bergeron, he's supposedly disappeared as well. There's no
yeah.
more uploads from him,
Interesting, man.
so it's all very.
Interesting.
I
I
mean, it's
love that.
bloody.
I think there's something to it. I think there's something to it, and actually, I think that you could happily make some really really compelling stories, and tell some really compelling storylines through this media if yeah if you've got the time and the ideas to do it.
Mm,
Unfortunately, like now with like YouTube's rules and stuff like that, you probably couldn't make any money off it because
mm.
it's not family friendly. But so you can't really make a career out of doing stuff like this.
But we,
But
we 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 talk all the time about making original content, and
right.
this is that.
This is that. This is exactly that. And I think there's a lot of those videos, a lot of those videos spread across YouTube that, like I said, the one I'm going to send you, maybe you've seen it. And if you have, do you know, we'll just bring it up on the podcast just to chat about it and then share it with everyone else out there. But that's the one I'm going to send you is a great example of, it's definitely someone that's creating a fictional piece, but they
Mm,
do it in a way where they present it as real. And there's this, like, it's so in depth and there's so many hidden meanings behind it, and no one has any idea what it is or what it's about. And for the longest time, people thought it was real. Yeah, and there's just crazy stuff, man, where like people run wild with it. But I think from a storytelling point of view, and just bringing it around to what you just said, and kind of the through line of always on our podcast is original storytelling, original content like this. Man,
yeah,
there's something in it. There's some great storytellers out there. There
yeah,
really is.
and very simple as well.
Yeah, very simple, very effective, low cost, and like you saw on this, millions and millions of views. 25 million views.
25 million views.
It's insane. That's insane. Nothing gets, if you want to talk in terms of like TV ratings and stuff like that, nothing gets 25 million views.
Mm,
It's incredible. And that would have slowed like down quite a lot in the last few years. So that 25 million views would have been accumulated quite quickly as these viral clips do. And then, they really slow down. But yeah, insane, man. I think like I'm always interested in finding more out about these people. And then, if I was an executive, I would be like talking to these people, saying what else you got, what other ideas you got, because original content like that, man, even if you're making a web series out of it, I think there's something in it.
yeah,
Really
completely.
is. Yeah, man. Well, on that note, Chris, you outdone yourself with that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Really, really good. Really,
I
really
hope you
interesting.
sleep well tonight.
Yeah. Do you know what? The disturbing thing is, I'm probably gonna watch it again.
You could have it as your ringtone.
I'm probably gonna have it my ringtone. That's it. Next time you see me, I'm gonna have it as my ringtone. Yeah, man. Really, really good. Really, really enjoyed that.
Awesome.
Yeah, guys. Thanks for joining us again. And I just want to give a special shout out for like last week's episode because I don't know if anyone noticed, but that Fright Fest episode was like within 24 hours was like our most successful episode ever.
Yeah,
So
man. That was. Thank you
yeah,
so much for listening to that. We got a lot of really good engagement on that one, so that was
yeah,
really cool. Thank you.
loads of great feedback and everything. And it's crazy because like that podcast was well over an hour long. So
Oh yeah,
insane that like people tune in for that long and just listen to us ramble about film. So yeah, thank you very much. And on that note, guys, come back next week. Chris is going to have another creepy link, and we might be talking about that link I'm going to send him. Well, we definitely will, if he's seen it or not. We're definitely going to talk about it because I think it's noteworthy. And yeah, until next week, Horror Hounds, stay safe.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.